Welcome to the Euranet Plus Summit Debate, broadcasting live from here in the European Parliament in Brussels. I'm Dave Keating, and I'm joined today by Michel Barnier, who is the EU's chief negotiator for Brexit. I'm also going to be joined by our network of radio journalists from across Europe who will be asking questions to Mr. Barnier via video and audio links. Mr. Barnier, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Good evening.
Now, our discussion comes at a very important point for these Brexit negotiations because splits are emerging in the UK over several questions, one of which is whether the UK should be in a customs union with the EU after Brexit. There are also questions being asked about whether the UK should join the European Economic Area. That's the zone including Norway and Iceland, in which countries have access to the single market, and in exchange they have to pay into the EU budget and follow a large amount of EU laws. So we're 1 year to go, and we still don't really have a very clear idea of what the future UK-EU relationship is going to be like. It seems to me we have four possible scenarios here. We have a hard Brexit, in which the UK has no access to the single market. We have a free trade deal between the UK and EU, in which it has some access. We have the UK joining the European Economic Area, in which it has complete access without the ability to vote. Or, it's within the realm of possibility, we have the UK cancelling Brexit and remaining in the EU. So let me ask, in terms of where we are right now in the negotiations, which of those four scenarios do you think is most likely?
First of all, this negotiation is very complex. It is extraordinary, but it is also very complex. And to try to simplify and to be understood, we have to put the things and the steps in the right order. What is at stake today is not the future relations. Right now, we have to conclude and to finalize the agreement on the withdrawal agreement, an orderly withdrawal. And it's my choice, taking into account your four options. My option, from the very beginning, for the day one, is to work for an orderly withdrawal with UK, to organize orderly separation. That is the point of this, the goal of this draft treaty we have put on the table 6 weeks ago. We have worked a lot with the British delegations, and I just to say that the British negotiators are very professional, and we have succeeded to agree on more or less 75% of the content of this withdrawal agreement. But what remains is very important: the governance, many other issues, and obviously the Ireland and Northern Ireland situation. If we succeed to agree on this orderly withdrawal in October or November, the next step will be the ratification. On our side, the European Parliament, the Council, and the British side, the British Parliament. And the UK will leave the institutions in March. If we succeed, beginning in March, we will have a transition period of 21 months, during which this transition, the UK will remain in the single market and in the customs union and on all the policies of the Union. And so we will have the time to negotiate the future relations. As far as the future relations are concerned, let me just show my favorite slide, which is very famous now.
I've seen it many times by now. Yeah.
Yes, and you can have the answer to your questions. In any case, the best relation with the EU will remain to be member of the EU. The second best will be the Norwegian EEA regime, being part of the single market and being outside of the EU. The last one will be a free trade agreement, exactly what we have negotiated recently with Japan, Korea or Canada. But each of these models is available. If this model is on the table, it's a choice of the UK to leave the EU, to leave the single market and to leave the customs union. But if the UK want to choose one of these models, it's possible. But in that case, he will have to change one or two of these red lines. Because of these red lines, the UK closed itself the door to each of these models. But that is the point. I am not able to answer to the question. I listened to debate in UK, in the House of Lords and somewhere else, but I'm not to express an opinion at this point.
Now that it's being seriously discussed in the UK, though, I mean, what is your assessment about the feasibility of the UK joining the EEA? I mean, in your discussions with Norway and Iceland, are they happy to have the UK join the EEA? Would it have to fundamentally change if the UK was in it?
But this option is available. It is on the table. But the point is each model has its own balance of right and obligation. And speaking about Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway, I think they can agree for UK to join the EEA, but at the same level of right and obligation, the same framework. It cannot be another framework than the EEA system.
So no special access for the UK within the group.
If the UK, if you look, the reason why the UK closed itself the door to the EEA model today is the fact that they refuse to recognize the role of the Court of Justice. They refuse to recognize one of the four freedoms, the freedom of movement for the people. They refuse to recognize the regulatory framework of the EU. And in addition, they don't want to respect the single trade policy. That is the red lines of the UK, not our red lines.
Let's take our first question from one of our satellite journalists here. It's coming from Portugal. Let's hear from Francisco with Euranet Plus member station Radio Renascença.
Since the UK will leave the EU customs union, do you think that it will be necessary to reintroduce a border with special infrastructure between the Republic of Ireland and Ulster?
So this obviously is another very fraught issue in the negotiations. What's your standpoint right now?
Let me add just between the two questions, the first one and this one, that the only frictionless model for the future with UK would be Norway plus. Norway being part of the single market plus a custom union. For each of the other models, we'll have the obligation to create and to implement control for the goods, for the standards, for the norms, and for the rule of origins. Coming back to the specific point of Ireland and Northern Ireland, which is the most sensitive point of the negotiation, one point is clear. If we want an agreement of the orderly withdrawal of UK in October or November, we must have inside this agreement an operational solution for Ireland and Northern Ireland.
That's a red line for the EU.
It's clear. And we have proposed one solution on the EU side, which can be discussed and amended by the negotiation, but in any case, we will have such an operational solution, what we call a backstop. And our proposal is clear. It is exceptional for a very unique solution, a very unique situation. It's to propose to include Northern Ireland inside our custom union. That means that we have to implement some control, and it's the only way to avoid a hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
And how acceptable do you think that is to the UK at this point? Having a border.
It depends on the common will. I spent 2 days in Ireland and Northern Ireland a few weeks ago. 10 days ago, it was very useful and interesting meeting all the communities in Northern Ireland, in Londonderry, the business community, but also the community of young people, of women. It was very moving. And I'm sure that if we stand at the technical, operational level, we succeed to de-dramatize this situation, to avoid politics and ideology. I'm sure that what we have proposed, that could be, once again, could be amended, is acceptable by the people of Northern Ireland.
Let's take our next question, which is coming from Bulgaria. This question is coming from Dian Ayatov with member station Bulgarian National Radio.
Mr. Barnier, how should the social and professional security of the EU citizens, including Bulgarians who work for British companies, should be guaranteed after Brexit? And not only in the UK, but for the outsourced British companies in the EU as well, in the high-tech, IT, human resources and creative arts sectors.
This question is very important because it's clearly the proof that speaking about Brexit is not only speaking about negotiation between London and Brussels with diplomats, and it's about people, about local businesses. And so many people, in fact, 3.5 million people, among them many Bulgarian citizens, and also on the other side, 1.5 British citizens living and working in the EU. So what we have succeeded today, and it's at the condition that we succeed to ratify this treaty in beginning of next year and to agree on this treaty in October, November, is to give to all these people, 4.5 people, British and European citizens, total security on their rights. And we are speaking of the rights of these people for themselves, for their family, for the duration of their life, and including the social rights and the rights of residents. So I think we are able today to give to this question, not only for the Bulgarian citizens, a good answer, but the condition is to agree, because nothing is agreed until everything is agreed, and the real certainty for all these citizens will come with the ratification of this treaty next year, at the beginning of next year.
So you're convinced that if the text of this draft is approved and goes through, you can guarantee security to these citizens?
My answer is yes, for the people who have already made a choice of life today or from today until the end of the transition period planned in this agreement. That means until the end of December 2020. For all these people, I'm sure that if we agree finally on this text, the right will be secured. It is another story for the people who will come after the Brexit and after the end of the transition, depending on what will be, and not yet, the future immigration policy in UK.
I want to bring up a slide now. This is from our social media monitoring partner, Brandwatch. They've been taking a look at how the Brexit conversation is unfolding on social media. And one of the results struck me as quite interesting. They compared the mentions of your name to your counterpart, David Davis, who is the UK's chief negotiator for Brexit. They found that amongst all the conversations that mentioned Brexit and one of your names, 94% mention your name, while only 6% mention his. Why do you think you have become so famously associated with Brexit, particularly in the UK, because you are a household name in the UK now? Why has that been so much more the case for you than for David Davis?
We don't negotiate on Twitter. Twitter is useful, even necessary, to comment, to give the keys to the citizens, to explain the different issues of the negotiations, also to use what is very important for me, the transparency vis-à-vis the citizens. But we don't negotiate on Twitter, so I don't know really the answer. But perhaps we can ask this question to David Davis. Huh?
Perhaps. Well, it is a very closely watched issue here in Brussels. We're not used to seeing these types of negotiations followed so closely. Do you feel that pressure from social media, from citizens, having these negotiations so closely watched by so many people?
But this negotiation is extraordinary and complex, once again. It cannot be, it must not be secret. It must be a public debate. The Brexit is a very serious issue. The fact that so many people in UK have voted against Europe, we have consequences, very serious and very important consequences for human, social, economic, financial, technical, legal consequences. But you have also lessons for the Brexit, and we have to draw the lessons. That is the reason why I want to in the name of the 27 members, and in confidence and trust with the European Parliament, to use this time for the public debate and to explain what it means to be out and what it means to be in the EU and what are the consequences, and also to try to say that we have to draw the lessons and to be clear, there is no added value to the Brexit. And until now, nobody has been able to give me the proof that there is an added value to Brexit. But there are lessons to draw to the lessons, to the Brexit, and we have to build the task of the head of states and the parliament a positive agenda to answer to the questions.
Well, we can take our next question live. This question is going to be coming live from Latvia. We're going to hear from Gins from member station Latvia's radio. Gins, can you hear me?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Go ahead with your question, Gins.
Mr. Barnier, Gins Amoliņš from Riga, Latvian National Radio. You might have heard about ABLV bank case here in Latvia. It recently collapsed after United States publicly accused it of money laundering, including links to Kremlin-friendly oligarchs. Now, one of the questions is where that money previously held in ABLV bank will go. And some say that it will most likely find its way back to Europe, and quite possibly it's going to be the United Kingdom. So the question is how to avoid that after Brexit, UK potentially becomes offshore where dirty money flows. And can EU do anything about that?
I know this case, but I don't want to comment. It's not my task as a negotiator to comment this particular issue. Except that to say that all the regulations in EU, including UK until the Brexit, are very important. And I, as a former commissioner for internal market and financial services, I have worked a lot to rebuild the financial regulations, to draw the lesson of the crisis, and to protect what is key, our common good in Europe, which is the financial stability, including for Latvia and all the other member states. The point is, after the Brexit, to know what kind of relation we will build with the UK. And if we want to have a strong partnership, and it is my goal to build a strong partnership, not only for trade, but also for internal security, external security, defense, and foreign policy, we will have to be sure that we can avoid between us the dumping. That is the questions. And so we will have to negotiate also to find the right tool for a level playing field. And this point is very important, not only for the substance, for the level playing field, for the economy. It's also important because the future relation will be translated in one or many new treaties. And be careful at the point that each of these treaties for the future relation will require the ratification, not only of the European Parliament, but the 27 national parliaments, including the parliament in Riga. That means that we have to be very careful to the condition of this debate, and to succeed until the end of the process, we have to be careful about this point of the dumping of the level or the level playing field. We have to find the UK.
Let's take our last question. This is coming from Poland, from journalist Ewa Stankiewicz from member station Polski Radio.
Considering Brexit in a broader sense, some Poles are also afraid of mechanisms that may be launched by the UK's exit from the EU. It has been talked a lot about the domino effect of Brexit, which may make other countries also start a political debate about their status in the EU. So what can be done to prevent Czechsit or Frexit?
Or perhaps even Ital-exit, considering events this week. So far, we haven't seen that domino effect. Are you confident we won't?
Yes, because first of all, we must avoid the debate. The debate is democracy. So we have to participate, to take part to the debates, and to explain what it means to be inside and what it means to be out the EU. Look for the Polish and for the French and for the others. Look at what happened with the Brexit negotiations. It's much more complex, much more difficult. There is no added value. So everybody can see what happened, and the reason why we have decided to work in a total transparency. Unique. It is really the first time that such a huge and important negotiation is managed in a way of total transparency. So we have to not to be afraid by the debate, to show what it means to be out and in any case, at the end of this process, it will be clear that it's better to be in than out.
So you think Brexit will make people feel more confident about staying in the EU?
Yes, but in the same time, we have to draw the lessons to find a way for the citizens to feel that the EU protects them better than in the past. So we have to launch some reform, to launch new policy, to draw the lessons, to correct and to reform what need to be reformed in Brussels also. Huh?
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Mr. Barnier, for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. And thank you at home for watching.